Welcome in, everyone. This is the video you have been waiting for. It is an air guide T1 tutorial, and we're going to be explaining both Armada and Cortex and some of the ways that you can play air effectively as a beginner. And we're just going to talk about some things that I have learned in my time practicing air and things that you can do to improve yourself. So first off, I want to mention that the first thing you should not build in your air factory is actually a constructor. And the reason being is the constructor can easily die by one shot from a fighter. And if that's the first thing you produce, it is very meta for people to send one fighter across the map to try to shoot down the constructor. And constructors and the factory actually have a significant build time. It doesn't really mention it here, I don't think, unfortunately, but the build time with a constructor to build a single air constructor is about the same build time as a factory, so it can put you down quite a bit on your build power. So I recommend getting a fighter out first and sending that fighter to go try to shoot down the enemy's air constructor if they have built one themselves, and that can give you a little bit of an advantage kind of early on. You don't have to do that. That's just one of my favorite things to do as an air player. Now, Armada is not really the best T1 air, as they have a little bit less useful units to work with compared to Cortex. So their real best bet for effective defense as Armada is really the Banshee, and the Banshee only has 37 damage per second. It's kind of limited in its abilities, whereas the Shuriken is able to stun a unit and make them stop completely. Okay, so definitely going for a Cortex play is more popular for T1, as the Armada Banshee is just kind of a little bit weaker and not really the best thing. Anyway, you can see here the first thing we're going to be putting up with our air constructor is this construction turret. This turret is going to help our build power increase massively. Now, with other factories, such as a bot factory or a tank factory, a construction turret right off the bat is not nearly as important because the constructors themselves are cheaper. But with air, the constructors, the actual mobile units of a constructor, are very expensive, so as far as build time goes. So you want to try to limit the amount of air constructors you end up having to build until you get to a very late game stage. One of the first things we end up putting up is a massive amount of energy storage. Energy is very, very valuable when you're playing air because a lot of your units are much more energy dense than other unit types, such as bots and vehicles. So keep that in mind. One of the things you do want to do as you're getting fighters out, after you get your constructor out and have him working on some things, is you want to create a fighter wall. Now, this wall is to defend against any aggression by the opponents with their fighters. So if they wanted to try to do an early bombing run or try to shut down and stun your units, your teammates' units with Shuriken or something of that nature, these fighters are going to be able to defend the airway to make sure that they are the opposing air team is not harassing you. Okay, another thing that's very popular to do is to do an air scout early on in the game. But generally, you'd want to do this as one of your first things you're going to do if you're planning on doing an air scout. And what you would do is you'd build your an air scout just as one of the first things you build, and you'd fly him over the opposing team to see what all they have built. You can see who's playing tech, you can see what kind of units they're producing, how many air play. I mean, generally there would only be one air player, but if there's like weird strategies they're trying, you can get an early understanding of what they are just by having that scouting available. So that is a valuable thing to try to do. I don't always do it, but it can be very valuable. The next thing you want to look for is on the map, there will be certain mexes that are only accessible to the air player, and you need to make these a priority if you can. One thing you can also do is build a air defense tower there so that the opponent air player won't be able to take these mexes easily without getting some of their planes shot down. Now, when you when you go to build these mexes that are accessible by air, you want to be sure to bring a fighter protection group with that constructor, because as you know, the constructors are very expensive in build power, so you don't want to have it get shot down. Just try to value your construction units early on extremely as an extremely valuable unit. That most other constructors, they are good, but they're not quite as important as you have with air. Okay, and getting up these radar towers will also help get your team proper vision to be able to see where the opponents are moving in, and the radar towers are in a position that makes it much harder to kill them, so you're going to have the vision a lot longer on the battlefield. Now, back at base, we've built a couple bits more of energy as well, another energy storage, and we just want to prepare for going T2. And I'm going to pause here actually to talk a little bit about some things that we didn't have time to get into. So with air, going T2 is very, very important, but it's very, very difficult to do on your own. It is definitely recommended, if you want to go T2, to purchase a T2 con from your allies, okay? If you've been enjoying the video, definitely be sure to subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot and helps with other people finding Beyond All Reason content. If you want to hang out with me personally, check out the Discord. We now have Jaws Munch merch. We have some t-shirts and some mouse pads. If you guys want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it, and also sport around some cool items. I also want to give a big shout out to our biggest supporters, Nebuchadnezzar and Robot Robert. Thank you guys for the support. It helps out the channel a ton. Also, there's a brand new tournament that Nebuchadnezzar created called Bar Fight. You can check it out on the official Discord page for Beyond All Reason, and you can enter no matter the OS as a casual tournament. So that energy storage will help you get your T2 mexes upgraded and then get you going on a bigger economy, able to do even more damage and pump out more fighters. And if you need to, obviously you can add a scout into your fighter mix. This makes it so your fighters are able to target more quickly, and it adds a radar vision for any patrols that you need to do across the map as well. So there's a lot of opportunities with air to do unique strategies, such as even trying a bombing run, handing out air transports, but I want this to be a relatively simple guide for those who are just getting into it. And just remember, your basic role as a beginner air player is only to have a good fighter wall. As an advanced air player, you want to be a very good support across the map. So having an impact on your side of the map, all in this area, and trying to just maintain control, while also on occasion doing good bombing runs trying to hit economy. Those are like the three main things. Fighter wall. So, okay, do it in this order. Fighter wall first. If you don't have a fighter wall, don't plan anything else. Support your team on your side of the map as second. Make sure you have a fighter wall if you're going to do that. Bombing runs or some type of aggression as a third potential, only if the other two are being done as well. So if you aren't doing a fighter wall, don't do a bombing run. If you don't have a lot of support for your allies and they're losing ground, don't do a bombing run. And if you have all other three things covered, then you can go for aggression, then you can go for the attack and try to do some basic damage into the enemy. Anyway, guys, this is going to be it for this tutorial. Make sure that you check with your team on whether or not air is a good role for the map, because a lot of maps might not be really meant for air. There are certain maps called lane maps that have a little bit more of a specific way to play them. And so if you have any questions, just double check with your team before you choose the air role. But this should be a helpful guide to get you on the path towards success as playing air. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. We will see you guys on the battlefield.